Hey guys, and welcome back to Disgustingly Easy, the podcast for the long game. Today I'm taking you on a spin, and we're doing something a little bit different to my regular soapbox because I don't know about you, but I'm a bit done with hearing that I just need more discipline or 3 hacks to get XYZ. On a call today with the long game group, we were speaking about making decisions because one of our incredible members was spinning around a decision that she was wanting to make. And it had me reflecting on my own processes and the skill of decisiveness itself. Because for so many women, the length of time between where you are now and what you want, where you want to go, what you want to be, or even how you want to look could be collapsed by making decisions faster, deciding faster without being reckless, without hiding behind perfectionism, how to eliminate that analysis paralysis that comes with worrying whether a decision is right or not. Because in the end, action, not more thinking, is what actually collapses time and moves you closer towards your goal. So if you've ever felt like you're stuck in the space between wanting something and actually doing it, actually getting it, this is a short 20-minute training just for you. Let's talk about the space most women live in. It's this in-between zone where it feels like you're doing something. Maybe you're researching, you're thinking about it, you're listening to podcasts like this one. Well, no, there's no podcasts like this one, but maybe you're getting clear or you're waiting for it to feel right. Sometimes that sounds like I'm just taking some time with it, or I'm waiting for the right season, or I just want to make sure it's the right decision. And sometimes that's valid. Sometimes you genuinely do need more information. However, most of the time, you already have enough information and you're not waiting for clarity. You're waiting for certainty. You want to know it will work before you start. You want to guarantee that you won't regret it. You want to remove the sting of failure in advance. And I see this all the time in conversations where women want to join the long game. How will I know that it's going to work? Well, fuck, Susan, I can't answer that. Like, it will work if you work, and there's the rub. But yes, this is further complicated by neurodivergence. So while I jest, it makes a lot of sense because you're not necessarily deciding just in the present moment. You're calculating future energy. You're anticipating burnout. You're running social scripts. You're scanning for how this could go wrong, what it might cost you, or who it might impact. You're not afraid of effort. You're afraid of being wrong. But the thing is, there is no right path sitting somewhere out there waiting for you to uncover it. There is no perfect map and there is no flawless sequence that can eliminate all potential discomfort. There is just the next move. And the longer you sit trying to design the most optimal plan, the longer you stay exactly where you are, which is the place of discomfort that led you to this interminable pattern of thinking in the first place. And yet, I just want to get it right. But that right decision, or what we call the right decision, is just the option that gives us the biggest sense of control. It might look right. You might cling to it for 5 years. It might feel right at the time, like a shitty boyfriend or a job that just makes sense for your career. And it can still unravel. And that thing that doesn't work, that thing that stings, that mistake, that might be the pivot that sets you up for ways you couldn't even imagine yet. You don't know. You can't know. There are no guarantees. There are no right and wrong. There is just next. Let me give you a really tangible example. So, say you sit down and you design the most beautiful 10-step plan to get you from where you are to where you want to go. Maybe it's a business plan to make $1 million. Maybe it's a fitness plan, whatever. And you've thought through every obstacle. You've sequenced everything properly. You've done the research. You finally feel ready. You take one step, then you take your next step. And suddenly you learn something that you could never have known before starting. You now have the perspective of having taken 2 steps forward. Now you can see something that you couldn't see when you were making the plan in the first place. Maybe your body responds differently than you expected. Maybe the market reacts differently than what you expected. Maybe you realize that your comprehension of the situation was far more limited than you thought. Perhaps it was bias colored by your own personal experiences or beliefs. Maybe your energy feels different than you expected, or the big problem that you thought you had, the thing you had to overcome, just dissolves. And suddenly, steps 3 to 8 of that perfect plan don't even apply anymore. Sometimes you realize there's a shortcut, or you realize that you've overcomplicated it. Sometimes you realize that the thing you were bracing against was actually just imaginary. But if you're attached to this original plan, if you need it to be the right plan, sometimes you even miss that pivot. You miss the shortcut entirely because you're so focused on where you thought you should go. Or you end up frustrated thinking, I can't believe I wasted so much time planning all that out. But you didn't waste time. You just tried to solve something dynamic with static thinking. Growth doesn't reveal itself in theory. It reveals itself in motion. The unknown shrinks when you make contact with reality, not when you think about it harder. And thinking about things is a static process. Eventually, when it comes to leaping into the unknown, you're going to have to, well, leap. And that's actually a funny segue into the next thing I want to talk about, because whilst I know that I don't necessarily come across as particularly woo-woo, I am very woo-woo girly at heart. Cancer sun, Aquarius moon, Scorpio rising. And if you look at the tarot for my date of birth, 22nd of the 6th, it's the Fool. The fool who is pictured stepping idly off the edge of a cliff, either to his own doom or detriment because he is indeed foolish, or conversely, stepping out because he knows something we don't and is going to be divinely held or caught by the universe. So when it comes to leaping or stepping out into the unknown and taking bold action, so much hesitation comes back to one thing, and that is the fear of failure. And if we break it down, failure to me and how I teach it is an interpretation. You expected one outcome, you got another, and your brain labeled it wrong. That's it. Objectively, what happened is this: you gathered information. Maybe you went into a deficit and the scale didn't move. That's just data. Or you committed to lifting heavier weights and then you had to adjust because you got hurt. That's just data. You launched something and it didn't convert how you thought it would. That's data. If you joined something and realized that it stretched you more than you had capacity, that's just data. But perfectionism makes data dangerous. And perfectionism is something I spoke about a couple of episodes ago as a representation of internalized misogyny. So if you struggle with perfectionism, I highly suggest you go back and listen to that episode as well. It's a 5-minute hot take. Perfectionism twists completely benign, objective information into an identity marker. That didn't go to plan becomes, I shouldn't have done that. How could I be so stupid? I should have known. And that discomfort we feel in our body turns to shame, and shame burns. And so next time you hesitate longer. You try to engineer more certainty. You wait for the perfect timing. And here's the part that's even harder to admit. Indecision costs you more than failure ever will, because indecision keeps the loops open. And open loops drain capacity. You wake up thinking about it. You go to sleep thinking about it. You renegotiate with yourself daily. And every time you feel that shame, and every time you take that objective data and you tell yourself it means something awful about you, your decision-making ability, or your ability to know what's next. So on the one hand, we're spending all this time and all this energy in the in-between space between intention and action. We churn and churn and churn and gather more information. We hesitate. That loop, that open loop, getting heavier and heavier. And then when we do finally make a decision, even when it is the right one, we're often looking for the ways in which it could have been better or the ways we could have been better. And that process over time compounds and it erodes self-trust. When you do decide to A, make your decision faster, B, acknowledge that there is no right or wrong, just next, and C, internalize the idea that outcome is data and not a reflection of your worth, something shifts. The mental noise drops. The debate drops. Your energy moves forward at pace, with a pulse, with a reliable beat, instead of going like a scattergun in every direction. You go from should I to I am. And that alone changes how you show up, your energy, your presence, your results. And finally, probably the most important step that I see women skip completely. Let's say you do decide. You move, you learn, you adjust, you get there. Maybe you've built the strength, lost the weight, maintained the consistency. You hit that milestone. What happens next? Most women barely acknowledge it, either due to fucking tall poppy conditioning. Don't celebrate yourself too loudly. You don't want to seem too arrogant. You don't want to seem like you're up yourself. So you minimize it. You make sure people know that it wasn't that big of a deal and anyone could have done it. And then you just move on so fucking quickly. The second reason is even more common, especially with ambitious, driven, business minded, hyper focused women. Your eyes are already on the horizon. You reach one goal and you're immediately scanning for the next gap, the next target, the next improvement, the next part of you that's not enough. You don't allow a moment of gratitude for the version of you who did the work to get there. There, a place that 6 months to a year ago you would have died to be in. And that matters more than people realize, because if you don't integrate your wins, your nervous system doesn't encode them as proof, or it never registers completion. It never closes the loop properly. It doesn't internalize the idea that you push hard, you grow, you overcome. You followed through. All it knows is the stress and the push. There is no resolution. So when the next decision shows up, it still feels terrifying because it feels relentless. Collapsing time isn't just about deciding faster. It's about movement, observation, an objective understanding of the outcome. It's about integrating your results and closing the loop. It's about celebrating each win as you go. Move, observe, integrate, celebrate. And fine, I get that so many of you are too scared to publicly say that I'm a boss bitch who does boss bitch things and I made a killer move and it fucking worked and I'm so fucking proud of myself. But I can tell you from experience as a coach and as someone who's been on a personal development journey for more than 10 years now, when you skip the integration, you will feel behind no matter how much progress you've made. When you pause long enough to say, I did that, something stabilizes inside of you, and a stable identity moves fast in decision making. So if we bring all this together, here's the real skill. It's not about perfect planning, bold leaps, hustling harder. It's all in your awareness. Once you realize that you're spinning the plates, once you clock where you're at in the decision making spectrum, you now have a responsibility to do something different. Decide, move, respond to what's real, adjust. And when you reach that milestone, you let yourself acknowledge it. Rinse, repeat, go again. That combination is what collapses time. Because once you start renegotiating every single decision, once you stop trying to eliminate all uncertainty in a world or a universe where control is an illusion anyway, once you stop minimizing your wins, momentum compounds. Self-trust compounds. And when self-trust compounds, the next decision feels lighter. And before you know it, you're flying. Now, before you switch off, before you tell yourself, I'm going to come back to this later, or I'm going to think about it when I'm ready, so many people will listen to this or nod or agree. They'll say, yes, oh my God, that's me. And then they'll do absolutely nothing with it. And those are the people for whom intention and action will always be poles apart. But you, I know that you are not that person. So here's what I want you to do right now. If it's available to you, grab a pen and paper, preferably a pen and paper, not your notes app, not a mental tally, an actual pen and actual paper, because this works well when you can make it physical. I want you to write down a decision that you're currently circling, the one you keep revisiting, the one that pops into your head in the shower, on walks, when you're lying in your bed, when you're driving your car, the one that keeps the loop open. Once you've got it, I want you to write it down on your piece of paper. And I'm going to give you 7 questions to complete this training. You can pause after each question so you can answer it properly. Question 1. If no one could see the outcome of this decision, what would I choose? Remember, no one's checking your answers. No one's looking over your shoulder. Answer honestly to yourself, stripping away all the audience, any sense of judgment. When no one is watching, what feels true? If no one could see the outcome of this decision, what would I choose? 2, what outcome am I trying to control right now? So, what are you trying to guarantee before you move? Is it certainty? Is it approval? Is it a particular number, a specific response? I want you to name the outcome that you're gripping onto. 3, what discomfort am I actually trying to avoid? Often it can be embarrassment, exposure, being wrong. Sometimes just writing that discomfort plainly can be enough to diffuse it or diffuse the energy attached. 4, if I never make this decision, where will I be in 6 months' time? Project it forward. If nothing changes, what compounds, what stagnates, what erodes, what grows? 5, if I do make this decision, even imperfectly, where could I be in 6 months' time? This is looking at what you could be learning, what you could understand, what skills would you build if you made this decision? What evidence of self-trust could you gather? Where could you be in 6 months' time with even an imperfect decision? Write that down. Turns out I only had 6 questions for you. Question 6. If I made this decision today, what would be the very next move? Not the move that would require 10 mini steps in between, not even the 10-step master plan, not a 5-year projection. What is the literal next thing that you would have to do? Is it Googling something? Is it sending an email? Is it looking something up? Is it putting your shoes on, your runners on? Is it opening up your calendar and seeing what's available? I want you to define that in one clear sentence. Now, look at your page. That final answer, that final step, that is it. That is the only thing you need to do right now. Not the whole plan. We don't need to know the outcome. We can't control whether or not it's going to work. I just want you to take that next step, collapsing the timeline by executing that one move and see what you can see from your new vantage point, having taken that one step, because this is what most people won't do. If you feel like declaring it publicly, like posting it to your stories, if you want to share this episode and let people know what your one step is, if you're in long game, please bring it to the forum, bring it to the calls. Let us do this together, because the women who move are not the ones with the best plans. They're the ones who are brave enough to take that step, not the right step, not the wrong step, just the next one. So take it. I'm going to leave it there today, but I just want to remind you that if you love this kind of conversation, if this wets your whistle, if this gets you going, these are the kind of conversations that we are having in the long game every single day. Not surface motivation, not emotional bypassing or toxic positivity. No, be more disciplined. No, just try harder. Real discussions about the space between intention and action, about why you hesitate without shame, about what you're avoiding without shame, and how to hear that internal click when it shifts from should I to I am. We have 2 live coaching calls every single month. Women bringing real decisions, real tension, real growth edges, and together we are closing all these loops. And if you know that indecision is your Achilles heel, if you know you're capable of more, but you keep negotiating with yourself, if you're tired of spinning when you could be moving forward with intention, with that pulse, with that beat, instead of that scattergun energy, then where else do you really need to be right now other than inside the long game? All you need to do, the only first step you need to take, is to send me a message on Instagram with the word ready. We don't need to know everything that comes after that. That is the only step you need to take you from intention to action. And of course, if this episode hit, make sure you like, follow, subscribe wherever you're listening so that you don't miss a beat. And bonus points if you come across and share your favorite part of this episode to your stories. Tag me at BeckCameronCoach_AU. Close the loop. Call back your energy. Feel your capacity expand without changing a single thing in your life. And remember, when nothing is certain, anything is possible. You've got this, and I've got you.